Hello, I'm Dorian Steele, and today this is a big one. I'm going to be disclosing to you today my experience of being somebody who lives with narcissistic personality disorder, alongside the fact of primarily being a psychopath. Now, there's a lot of content out there online that's really good to look at from people who are solely diagnosed with NPD and have no other personality disorder or otherwise existing alongside that condition. The ones that come to mind for me are Jacob, the nameless narcissist, and Lee Hammock from Mental Illness. But I've often found as searching the internet for people like me that there is some, but very little content from people who are like myself, coming from a point of view of somebody being with a condition of both antisocial and narcissistic personality disorder. It's not surprising, to be honest. I did a little quick Google AI search, and according to that, apparently only 25% of people with an ASPD or an NPD diagnosis actually qualifies for a diagnosis of the other ulterior condition. So talk about winning the neurobiological lottery in life, so to speak. We're a very rare and special breed. So before I go into this myself and my experience, for those who are particularly new to this sort of knowledge, because I understand whilst there is a lot of content out there, a lot of it is misinformation, especially to do with narcissism. So I'm going to be going over the criteria and what actually is narcissism. Well, it's not just a slur or an insult that you throw at people on the internet, like most people would have you believe today, unfortunately. Narcissism or narcissistic personality disorder is a diagnosable mental illness as per the DSM-5. There's 9 points of criteria, and in order for an individual to be diagnosed with this condition at the time of recording this video, an individual or a patient has to meet at least 5 of the 9 diagnostic criteria, or points of criteria, I should say. So where does Dorian Steele fall all into this? Well, it first came to light to me, this was way after I was already diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder. Originally it was the mother of my child who had sort of tried to raise this to me that, hey, she thinks that I've probably got this disorder as well, and she'd looked at it, and me being me, I just dismissed everything she said, which is typically what a narcissist will do, ironically. But I dismissed it. I told her she was wrong. I said there's no way. I didn't know a lot about back then about comorbidity of personality disorders, etc. So I thought that the odds of having 2 personality disorders were like 1 in a million. It couldn't happen. It was lightning in a bottle, for lack of a better phrase, and so on. So I'd just been sentenced to a 1-year community order in court. It was early 2024, so I was still 23 at the time. This was a couple of years ago now. And after the sentencing, I had a meeting with my barrister who represented me, and she's represented me in a previous case before. She knows my diagnosis of ASPD, and, so we got along really well. And I said to her just in passing, because we talk about casual things, have a laugh as well. It's not all doom and gloom. It doesn't have to be. And I mentioned to her, I said my kid's mother had the cheek to say that I come across as arrogant or entitled at times, and that she thinks I've got NPD as well. And I think she's pretty sure she did a degree in psychology as well as law, so she knows the DSM, the terminology. And I'm kidding you not, she just looked dead at me straight in the face, and she said, "Well, you do." And I was quite taken aback, because I've never seen myself as presenting as arrogant or entitled, superior to other people, but apparently it does seep through. But it's almost without me realizing, like, I'm blind to my own arrogance, the same way that I'm blind to other people's boundaries, or sometimes maybe what they're feeling. And so going forward with this, I said, well, doesn't matter. I said, look, there's got to be another explanation. I said, there's no way I've got NPD. So I went home and I opened my trustworthy DSM. That was the one I had at the time before I had the big one. And I looked in the criteria, and very similar thing with what was happening when I first suspected that I had ASPD. The criteria was just like speaking for me, and I thought, oh yeah, actually, I am a very much of a fantasist. I do think about my looks quite often. Yeah, I guess I do feel like I am superior to others. Obviously there is a bit of a crossover between narcissism and psychopathy, but the traits that I was reading at definitely added up, and I more or less maxed that out as well. But I've never been formally diagnosed with NPD. I've never felt the need to chase a diagnosis for that. I know that I'm a cluster B personality disordered person. I know I meet the threshold for ASPD and psychopathy, and that's enough for me. And given the fact that that's already there, and me reading the DSM and reading up about NPD and looking at other people's experiences living with it, I definitely relate to, for the most part at least. But my NPD, it comes with a bit of a twist. It's kind of like a cocktail in a way. And that's what I'm going to be getting into now. So one thing that I don't experience as somebody with NPD, which I think I'm quite really lucky of, is this deep feeling of worthlessness and shame, and like I'm at the bottom of the human barrel. I've never had that insecurity at all, really, ever in my life. But as far as it goes for me, for feeling inferior to other people, or like I'm just trying to feel good to fight off this bad feeling that's going to come up inside if I don't get enough praise or admiration, that's not me. The reason that I like praise and admiration is because it makes me feel powerful and superior to other people. It matches what I'm always thinking, because that is just how a psychopath works, especially a narcissistic psychopath. We are just the creme de la creme. We're better than you, and we're more deserving than you, and there's really no explanation besides that. That is that, and that is how the world turns for us. If somebody was to like insult me, and they might say, your clothes look silly, or your hair is slightly thinning on the top of your head. For me, that wouldn't, well, I wouldn't want to say it wouldn't bother me. It might irritate me. It might make me angry. I might react in a volatile manner, because who is anybody to actually think that I care about what they think of me, for one. But two, I'm not insecure about anything to do with me. I'm very comfortable in how I look, how I present, and how I am. I'm at a very good stage in my life, and no matter where I am, I'll always be Dorian Steele, and I wouldn't change it for the world. So any little attack like that, something that could be perceived as an insecurity, where the narcissist feels ashamed or let down by themselves, worthless, and like I said, maybe even suicidal over something as small as an insult like that, I will feel slighted. I won't feel ashamed. I will feel slighted against, and will immediately retaliate upon that, because I do not suffer fools. Number two, the second weirdest thing about me having NPD is that I don't need other people around me. So typically a narcissist will have one at least, or several groups of friends within their life. They might go to a social club where they get and that's one source of narcissistic supply. They might go to school, or they have work, they have family, they have other friends, and they have loads of different people around them to give them that admiration, that ego boost, that confidence that they need in order to again fight off the inner turmoil that a typical narcissist will feel. But for me, when you're a psychopath, all you need to feel good about yourself is some hair product, some nice clothes, and a mirror, and that's it. I don't really keep friends very well for the most part. I am trying to change that. It's going well so far at university. A lot of people, they like to talk to me, and I've got a really tight-knit class, and don't get me wrong, I get a lot of admiration and praise there on things like how I dress. I'm always the first one to start assignments early, look at lecture content. I'm very smart and intelligent, which people are drawn towards, And, you know, I am a narcissist as well at the end of the day. I will never say no to ego praise or admiration. Otherwise, then I wouldn't be a narcissist. But with the overlap or the umbrella disorder over me being the psychopathy, I don't need other people. I don't have a desire to be around other people or be close to them or need them to feel good about myself. I can manifest that myself quite easily and go about my day. And number 3, but it's suicidal ideation or attempts. I would absolutely, I can tell you now, never, 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 never commit suicide or off myself under any circumstance in any way, shape or form. Fun fact, actually, this is nothing to do necessarily with narcissism, but actually it's linked to psychopathy. So in 1945, there was Dr. Hervey Cleckley, and he was the first ever psychologist in the field of psychology to come up with the first ever set of criteria for psychopathy. He wrote it in his book, The Mask of Sanity. Brilliant book, by the way, and the criteria for me, it gets me down to a T. And one point, it's point number 14 in the criteria, I believe, is lack of genuine suicide attempts. It's been reported that some psychopaths will attempt suicide, but that it's purely just a ruse to arouse feelings of empathy and sorrow from other people in order to exploit them or manipulate them. Now, me personally, I wouldn't even like to do that, because that, I feel like if I was in that position, of our poor little Dorian, he's tried to, you know, take his own life. To me, that makes me feel like I'm being looked at as weak. That, to me, in my perspective, I would be being looked at like I'm prey, like I'm something to feel sorry for and then potentially maybe exploit. And that's not something that I'd want to be in. So yeah, I don't have any suicidal urges, unlike a lot of narcissists that have or that do. Again, just like the need for other people, it just doesn't exist in my DNA. It's not there in my biological footprints, and I, for one, I'm quite glad about that. I mean, who wouldn't be? So now we go into the 4 types of narcissist. There is the grandiose, which I believe is also known as the overt. Then there is the vulnerable, which is the covert narcissist, the communal narcissist, and then lastly, what is often considered the next best thing before a psychopath is a malignant narcissist. I'm going to be defining those 4 terms for you now, and then showing you where I fit in exactly, although I bet a lot of you can already have a good guess at that at least. So we'll start with grandiose narcissism. A grandiose narcissist is the stereotypical average, what comes to your mind when you think of the word narcissist. Arrogant behaviours, superiority, entitlement. They're haughty, they're brash, have no problem or issues with confidence, strutting around the room like they own the place, even though they've only just come there for the first time and they don't know anyone. Now, next you have a vulnerable narcissist. The vulnerable narcissist will put on a veneer and act of shyness, coyness, maybe almost being nearly afraid, but not quite. But internally, secretly, they still feel that arrogance, that superiority above others. Now, communal narcissists, these are quite interesting. So a communal narcissist will surround themselves, place themselves in situations where they will do good for other people. Typically things like volunteering at your local animal shelter. You can find them in charity shops or maybe even on community projects in the local area. And they will act as if they're doing it out of the empathy, the kindness of their hearts, when really they just enjoy and they want the attention and the admiration, and so in order to feed that supply again. But their method, the way of going about it, I think is rather unique. And I didn't even know a communal narcissist was actually a thing before I started doing a bit of research to film this video. And then lastly, there is the malignant narcissist. As I said earlier, it is the next best thing or the next worst thing, depending on how you look at it, before being somebody who is a psychopath. A malignant narcissist has a sadistic streak. They enjoy the pain and suffering of others. pathological liars. They have absolutely no empathy whatsoever. They have a crossover with ASPD traits, but not enough for an ASPD diagnosis. So in terms of being comorbid like myself, they're close but of no cigar. So the big reveal, where do I fit into all of this? Well, after examining the traits, not only the criteria for the disorder, but the traits of the 4 types of narcissist, I can safely, definitely say that I am a hybrid of both the grandiose narcissist and the malignant narcissist. I'm sort of an amalgamation of the two, if you will. There is a sadistic streak in me. I've definitely enjoyed seeing other people upset, whether I'm the cause of that distress or otherwise. Yeah, absolutely a complete lack of empathy, very high in psychopathic traits. I'm superior. I have I'm at the height of egocentricity in my own head, and it's impossible to knock me off that horse. Nobody's succeeded so far, though few have tried and failed miserably. Call me grandiosely malignant, call me malignantly grandiose, either or, that's fine. I really couldn't care. But yeah, so often what I've seen happen in the past is that before my psychopathic traits will begin to emerge, such as things like criminal behavior, the lack of remorse, the lack of emotional closeness, my narcissism will show itself beforehand, kind of like in a weird way, like a warning sign, if you will. Like I said before, I've definitely been known to come across as, very superior, it's not just confidence though, it's arrogance. I remember once, the last therapist I ever saw, or one of the last ones I ever saw at least, she told me that I sit arrogantly, which I thought was really interesting. But yeah, she said, even the way you're sat now, it's like you think you're better than me. She said it really shines off and comes off strong. I've been told a bunch of things relating to narcissism though. I've been told that I talk like I'm talking into a mirror, even when I'm talking like face to face with other people. Because I guess everything that I ultimately say or do is going to be for my own benefit and for me. So I think that's just how that plays out and how that displays. Well guys, I know I've done a lot of talking. Yeah, it's been quite a big subject. I've had a script written up, 4-pager this was. Some things have been changed, mixed around, up and down, left and right. But I'm really glad to have finally done this video. As for future videos, I know this has been briefly mentioned once in one of my comment sections. I haven't been replying to the vast majority of comments. Don't worry, it's coming. I'm going to be doing a comment reaction series very soon. Not only will I be reacting to your comments here on this channel, but I will also be reacting to comments over on my friend Jamie's channel, as I've done several podcasts with her, and I think there must be at least like a couple hundred comments in total, or more than that, on the appearances that I've made. So there's plenty of comments that are well overdue a response, a reply from. Obviously, I'm not going to be replying to all of them. It's not going to be like a live stream where I sit there. It'll be a video just the same as this, and I'll sort of pick through the best ones. We'll have a laugh. And that's another thing about me, I guess, that's really weird, is that normally narcissistic people, they're very insecure with having any jokes made about themselves. And I don't know if it's because of the fact that I was raised in England and we have a very dry sense of humour over here. But I generally have a pretty good sense of humour about myself. As long as that I know you're my friend and you're not genuinely mocking me, we can always have some banter, some laughs back and forth. Which is really weird, I think. To me, any form of genuine, even if it's constructive criticism, it is like an attack. So I really don't enjoy that. Trying to learn how to manage it better off in college though, what with getting feedback from my teachers and all of that. And, I'm improving slowly, but I just have to know that, learn the difference between what my mind is telling me and what's actually happening. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll be seeing you in the near future with a new upload sooner or later. For me, it's take care for now, and arrivederci.